Hello, I'm Nathan. Welcome back to another video. Here I'm with Callum, developer behind Daemon Masquerade. Tell us about your game. Pitch it to us.
Well, Daemon Masquerade is basically like a detective game in a similar vein to something like, I would say, Phoenix Wright, or like Ace Attorney series, or Danganronpa. But I guess the unique twist of it is that instead of your evidence just being laid out in the menu or something like that, you instead create like a conspiracy board. Kind of like a Pepe Sylvia type moment of like, you know, you've got all your evidence. So there's a bit of an organizational element similar to something like unpacking as well. So it's kind of the two elements of like the organization of the evidence and then making the deductions based on that evidence.
And what made you want to make a mystery solving game?
I think that as I've gotten older, that's kind of been the game that I've really gravitated towards playing. I feel like when I was a kid, I always envisioned like ideas of platformers and stuff like that because I was really into like Ratchet and Clank and stuff like that. Yeah. But as I've gotten older, I've really just gotten into like, you know, Obra Dinn and Curse of the Golden Idol and all these kind of games. So it's something that's really spoken to me over the last couple of years. It's became kind of the main game I'm interested in. And then also like, I have been working at an escape room for a number of years, and so that kind of has rubbed off as well. This idea of like constructing puzzles and making stuff or telling a story through those puzzles as well, I think is a really interesting avenue that I've gotten excited by, of like making something that conveys both, you know, something that you have to work out logically, but also there is this emotional content to it as well.
How has the game changed, or your ideas for the game changed through development compared to its first iteration to where it is now?
Quite radically. So originally it was meant to be more of like an ARG kind of thing that you would just play online. So there wasn't really, originally there wasn't actually a game, like they were kind of just the documents that you would receive and you would look up. And it was almost like, it was an interesting thing where we had done these previous ARGs at the company that I worked at, the escape room, which is Ukiyo in Melbourne. Over lockdown, we did these things called Ukiyo at Home, which was kind of like an ARG type experience. And some of the players started making these conspiracy boards for those ARGs. And I was like, that was really cool. Like, and I was like, those people are having more fun than everyone else, right? Because they're making these conspiracy boards. Could I make that like a necessary part of the game? I sort of developed the, you know, the code and the game to make the mystery boards itself. And I was like, oh, that kind of, so it sort of sprung from there. And then went through a couple of iterations. Like at first it was much more visual novelty, sort of, because there was that big Phoenix Wright inspiration. I think that, you know, because I'm doing the art for the game as well, and my style's a little bit comic booky, I had this idea of like, well, instead of a visual novel presentation, what if it were all the dialogue was put in as a comic book instead, kind of thing. Mix it up a little bit and kind of give it a bit of a different vibe. And it also felt like it helped condense the story a lot as well.
And so would you say you're primarily an artist over a programmer?
I would say definitely, yeah. Anyone who will ever see my code will attest to that. But I think it's been interesting to kind of develop that skill in programming and think about ways that I can make something, you know, how I can convey meaning through my programming or you know, how to create mechanics and stuff like that. But I've tried to play to my strengths, so it is very much a, you know, it's like a visual-based game. It's mostly reading and looking at art, kind of thing like that. But then there is that, you know, I've learned enough programming to make the game that I want to make, which thankfully is a pretty straightforward game.
That's good, that's good. And so going forward, where do you want to see the game going, and you as a developer as well, do you have any aspirations or goals going forward?
I would like the game to pay for enough to make another one and kind of keep developing that skill. You know, I live pretty frugally, so another, because I'm making the game by myself, you know, it's not a high bar to clear to kind of sustain another year of development. But the way I kind of see it going, I think what I want out of game development is I like making the mysteries and stuff like that. Like one thing I love about the Ace Attorney series is there is that kind of formula there where it's like, once you've established like this concept of how the game works, you know, what other things can you explore in it? How can you take that to the next level? I want to make a game like every year. I'm not concerned about like my legacy and being like every game is perfect. I want to make, you know, I want to just try new things. If it doesn't work out, you know, it was a failed experiment, you know, but it was worth trying something else. I have so many ideas about different mystery games. Like I actually have made a prototype for something where you actually edit a video together. Yeah. And that's kind of like the evidence you provide. So like different systems, but still the same, you know, idea of like how do you present the truth of a mystery.
For example, those maybe who want to get into this style of games, maybe who see this and get inspired by it, do you have any advice for them or things you'd want them to know if they were starting out?
I would say jump into it. And I think that the thing that I've really learned through doing a bunch of different things, you know, I've gone through many phases of my life, you know, working as an animator, working in escape rooms, now making games. I think it's like, if you want to do something, starting is the hardest part. but it doesn't have to be. You know, like you can just kind of start working on something, and it's. I think for me the easiest way to learn something, like I'm not going to do a 3-year university degree in making something. I would rather just be like, make it, and then if I get stuck on something, Google it, and eventually you'll kind of crack it. The lowest level of programming, the highest level of programming, is still a case of just like, I don't know what's happening, why isn't it working? Bang, bang, bang my head, and then eventually you're like, okay, I think I've worked out that 12 lines ago I put a full stop where I didn't need to be, but you eventually work it out. So I think it's just like, go for it, keep trying, and if you really want to make something, if you put the time in, I think you'll make it.
And what's been the hardest thing to crack when making this game? Is there anything you've been particularly stuck on that you've had to break through?
I think it's conveying to people like what the game is, and the marketing side of it I think is something I really struggle with, because it's like I can see the whole picture in my head and know what it all means and know what I find significant about it, or like as a computer game, like a computer game is a product, but for me it's also a work of art, right? Like I'm an artist and I'm making something that I think is meaningful, and those two things together, it's very hard to navigate that, I think. And I think a lot of people have that problem, right? Especially like as a solo dev, you're responsible for everything, and I think there are some people who, you know, are quite good at creative pursuits, but everything means everything. It means like the budgeting, it means like the marketing, and that's the stuff that's really struggled. Like as much as I'm joking about struggling with the programming, that part was not as much of an issue as like coming out here today and we're at a con and I'm kind of having to be like, hey, you want to check out my game? Does not come naturally to me, and having to develop that confidence and be like, hey, come check it out. Whereas I want to crawl up in a hole and be like, don't look at me. I'm a little animation gnome. I don't want to talk to anyone.
Because I think like people can relate to that as well. I think especially for me, like, and as developers usually, especially if we're doing it solely independently, it's like we're spending 11 months of the year by ourselves working on this thing, and then suddenly for the like 2 days that we're social, we're meant to be these like charismatic butterflies out of nowhere. So I think that's a very valid point for people, you know, making games. You need to also like get out and know how to talk to people and convey your ideas.
And I'm thankful that before starting full-time game development, I had a job where I was doing customer service, and I at least have a little knowledge. But even like, it's crazy how fast you get out of practice. Because I was like, yesterday I spent just 16 hours straight working on the game, and now coming here and I'm like, you know, I'm a little spacey. I'm like a little mole emerging from the earth. But the sunlight was hurting my eyes this morning. Like I haven't seen it in 3 days, but I'm here and I'm making an effort, and yeah, you know, do what you can.
So when is it coming out? When can people expect, or where can they find you and your work and your game?
I think the best place is just to search Daemon Masquerade on Steam. I really appreciate the wish list. That's really how it gets bumped up in the algorithm, and you guys like, comment, and subscribe on this video as well. See, that's the kind of, again, another part of marketing that's difficult, right?
Yeah.
Like you gotta do the call to action. But yeah, check out Daemon Masquerade on Steam. That's Demon spelled D-A-E-M-O-N, like a computer demon. But yeah, and then just check out that. There'll be a demo available like end of this month, which is March 2023. And then the whole game is going to be released, hopefully, fingers crossed, October 31st, 2023. So Halloween this year. It's a bit of a supernatural mystery, kind of spooky themes. Hopefully October 31st. But I think I'm on track.
Anyways, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. And to all of you, we'll see you in the next video.